At the light, turn right onto Hartman Bridge Road.
We're trying to go see Amish Village. It's a beautiful place here. Nice hotels, nice restaurants, everything. Very close by.
Stay in the left lane. In 1 mile, turn left into the parking lot.
Wow, it's right here. Amish Farms.
Let's see.
Thank you. Sure, actually. Doll outlet. Just ahead the Amish Village. എന്നാ കാണാൻ അങ്ങനെ
അവരുടെ ഗാർഡൻസ് ഒക്കെ ആയിരിക്കും.
ഓ അല്ലാതെ എൻ്റെ ഗ്ലാസ്സിൽ അവിടെ
You know, to me, it looks like you're driving in Friendswood nearby to Jungel's place.
Really?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Don't you notice that?
yeah.
Look at the houses and all. Hills and valleys. It's awesome.
You know, it was in Houston. Right, Dad?
Yes, Joe, you're right.
Turn left into the parking lot, then arrive at your destination.
The Amish Village. കാണണമെന്ന് വലിയൊരു ആശയമായിരുന്നു എനിക്ക്.
What do you want me to? What do you want us to make sure?
Arrived.
What do you want us to make sure?
So this is the Amish Village store.
Very scary. No. Yes, sanitizer. David, what is your issue with me today? I fired you and now you're just all upset. Like, I don't know what.
He's just gonna have to go out and drive a bus.
I think it's called a compass pattern, something like that. I don't know the significance for it. She might have a better idea.
Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
upon.
Thank you. Ma'am, what is this 520 minutes? Is there anything related
That's
to
just called the folded star.
food?
Folded star, it's just a quilt pattern, it doesn't really mean anything.
Oh, okay. Because I've seen a lot
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
When we go on the
Yep,
Well, we're,
it's a very popular pattern.
oh, a tour through the.
Do you find this one on the village also?
But the,
This is all Amish people make. They have the best jelly,
That's
the raspberry jam. I love the honey. Look at this wildflower honey, gold nectar honey. And what is this? Golden nectar honey. This is natural. This honey is good. Apple butter spread, pumpkin butter, Amish made jams, 3 for $11.
Yes, it is.
I always buy the jams and all when they bring it to the
Apparently
hospital.
not, because it's spit it out already.
Amish people come to our hospital to sell things. That's how I know this. They are really a separated people, you know? This is all beautiful. Bridges of Lancaster County. Wow.
What's that?
Yeah, that's what they said.
See how you can put that over where I keep the things in the kitchen?
45 minutes ago, they said they were 20 minutes away.
We'll see.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah.
For you?
Make sure I remember to get that. That's a
Oh,
really
now
good
y'all
prize.
remember.
Alright, you guys are all ready for your house. Live here in America. They actually used to live in places like Germany and Switzerland over in Europe. And they weren't even Amish at all yet. They actually used to belong to a group called the Mennonites. But a man by the name of Jacob Allman actually separated himself from the Mennonites because he thought that they should believe in excommunication and shunning. What that is if you commit a sin that goes against their religious beliefs, then you have the chance to be shunned from your church community and your family. They'll basically ignore you and cut all ties with you. If that would happen, you would have a chance to get back in with them. You would just have to go to the church, tell them what your sin was, and then hopefully they'll forgive you for that sin. So the Amish and the Mennonites were actually persecuted from Europe by Prussian soldiers in 1700s because of their religious beliefs. So the founder of Pennsylvania, William Penn, actually invited them all to come over here. So they all came over by boat to Philadelphia, and then they walked over here to Lancaster County, and they've been here ever since. So the Amish, they have church every other Sunday. On the off Sunday when they're not having church, they're usually visiting with their family and their relatives that live around in the same area as them. But on the Sunday that they do have church, what family will take turns hosting the church service for their church district at their homes because they don't have church buildings. So in one church district, there could be up to 30 to 40 families, and they'll all rotate through who hosts the service. So when it's your turn to host the service, they'll come to your house. They'll set up the benches like the ones you're sitting on in a room like this one. This room's called the sitting room. It's like the living room of their homes. The men and the boys would sit on one side of the room, while the ladies and the girls would sit on the other side of the room, and the minister would stand up here to start the service. So the services normally start at about 8 in the morning, then they'll go until about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Then afterwards, the hosting family that hosted the service normally provides a luncheon for everybody that came to the service that day. So the minister would stand up here and give the whole service in a high form of German. The Bible back there on that table is actually written in the same high form of German that they would use during their services. So one big thing about the Amish is that they don't have any electricity. They don't believe in it. They believe that if they would be connected onto the electrical grid, then they would be associated with the outside world, and they don't like to associate themselves with the outside world. So instead, they'll have things that are powered on one singular power source to power their appliances. Things like gas, propane, and kerosene are what they would use to power their different types of appliances in their homes. So if you guys look around the room, you'll notice that there aren't any family portraits or pictures of the Amish. That's because the Amish don't like to pose for pictures. It's called a graven image if they do. So instead, they'll have a family registry like that one on the wall over there. The parents' names and birth dates will be on the top, and then all their children's names and birth dates will follow. So a typical Amish family has about 6 to 10 children, and the kids only go to school up until the 8th grade. So in school, they're taught English, reading, writing, mathematics, and then history. So since they are taught English in school, they do know how to speak a little bit of English, but the main language that they speak is German. So if you guys look around the room again, you'll notice how it's all one color. That's because the Amish are a little bit more conservative, so they like to save on things like paint. So they might paint one whole room, usually one of 3 colors. This one's blue for the sky, there's also green for nature, and white for purity as well. So this house was actually built in the 1800s, and an Amish family did live here for about 100 years. But then the owners bought this property in 1969 and converted it into a museum, so we teach everybody about the Amish. So as you guys walk through the home, you guys can feel free to take as many pictures as you would like to. Then when you guys are all ready, we'll head on into the kitchen.
This is the they won't take pictures because they think that is an image. Wow. This is their German Bible. Oh, they don't use electricity. Oh my God, I'm really touched by this. They're really separated. This is a typical Amish village.
Alright, so this is the kitchen. So the kitchen's normally the biggest room in the house. And the women, they'll do most of their different types of chores here, like the cooking. So like I said, the Amish don't have any electricity. Instead, they'll have things that are run on gas, propane, kerosene. They even have solar panels and air compression tanks nowadays to power their different types of appliances. So that light right there is actually run on propane. They would just turn the propane tank on and then light up the light. That one's also movable, so they're able to move it anywhere here on the first floor from room to room, just not up the stairs. So prior to the 1930s, they would have had an old wooden stove like that one to do all the cooking on and then the heating of the house during the winter time. Nowadays, they still might have that, and it would just be used to heat up the house during the winter time. They'll have a more modern stove like the one back there. It's run on gas. The fridge over here is also run on gas. And then for their smaller appliances like that mixer back there, they might hook it up to something so they can power it as well. Short, it's very long, and she'll wear it during the winter time when it's colder outside. She'll have to wrap it once or twice around herself just to stay nice and warm. So the straw hat on the wall is handmade by the Amish. The men will wear hats like those during the summertime and when they're working out in the fields. That way it'll just protect their heads from the sun. So these are the men's winter coats. Another thing about the Amish is they don't like to have buttons or jewelry. It reminds them of the Prussian soldiers that persecuted them from Europe. The soldiers had big belt buckles and then big brass buttons going up their uniforms. The soldiers also had mustaches, so you'll never see an Amish man with a mustache, only the beard. So sometimes buttons aren't necessary on their clothes, and if they do have to have buttons, it has to be either clear or the same color as the fabric. That way it'll blend in a lot more instead of sticking out. So the Amish, they don't have carpeting. Instead, they'll have rugs on the floors of their homes, and when their rugs get dirty, they'll hang them outside and then use this rug beater to beat all the dust and the dirt out of them to clean them up. So right over there is the sewing machine, and the women, they'll make around 75% of the clothing for their household. Now notice that the room this time is a green for the nature all the way around. So you guys can feel free to walk around the room, take pictures, then we'll head upstairs when you guys are ready. Things like each of the stars, and even on the ones in there, they all mean different things, I believe. I'm not sure exactly what they all mean, but they all mean different things.
Excuse me.
Alright, so this one's the boys' room. So everybody would have had those rope beds. You'd have to tie those very tightly every night before you went to sleep, or else you would end up on the floor by morning. That's where the expression sleep tight actually comes from. So they would have a mattress and they would stuff it with things like chicken feathers and straw to lay over top their rope beds just to make it more comfortable. Nowadays, the Amish will have regular mattresses and box springs. So the quilt on the bed is handmade by an Amish woman. They say that if you cut the price in half, and that's how many hours it took her to make the quilt. It takes a lot of time and patience because she'll hand stitch it all by hand. So their quilts are also the only things that they're allowed to have patterns on. Their clothes have to be one solid color. So if we all move over there, I'll tell you guys all about the outfits that they would wear most of their life, just in bigger sizes as they would get older. The little girls would wear a one solid colored dress with an apron, while the boys would wear a one solid colored shirt with a vest and then suspenders to hold up their pants. So the Amish girls, they get to choose the color of their dresses. Normally they choose different shades of purples, pinks, blues, and greens. So this dress is special because when a girl turns 16, she'll receive her white apron to show that she's single and ready to date. Their dating system, they recommend that they date for about 2 years before they get married. Because once you're married in the Amish community, you're married for life. They don't believe in divorce. So when an Amish woman does get married, she'll receive her black apron to show that she's taken. The men will also grow out their beards. They say the longer the beard, the longer he's been married for. They won't wear any wedding rings of any kind because they believe that their word in front of God is enough for them. So the women, they'll wear a dress like this one when they're going to do chores around the house or when they're working outside and in the fields. It's just something that they can get dirty. And then nicer dresses like these would be what they'd wear to school and then to church on Sunday as well. So the men, they'll wear a suit jacket like this one to church on Sunday, to their weddings, and then the funerals. So the weddings are much like the church service. They'll start early in the morning, then go until about lunchtime. Afterwards, they'll have a big feast to celebrate the bride and the groom. Normally around 300 to 500 people will attend the weddings. So the most important part of an Amish woman's appearance is her prayer cap. They believe that they should be in prayer at all times. So the only time that they'll take this off is when they're sleeping or bathing. So notice how it's heart-shaped, because we're in the heart of Lancaster County. The Amish around here really believe strongly in their heritage, so their prayer caps are more heart-shaped. So the bonnets, they'll go over the prayer cap, and the women will wear these during the winter time. The men will also wear hats like those during the winter time as well. So their shoes, they have to be one solid color, black. They're not allowed to have the exotic colors like the reds, the blues, the pinks, and the purples. So the men, they'll wear a nice sturdy work boot, while the women will wear a nice strong sturdy sneaker. So they do have brands like Nike and Adidas. They'll also wear Crocs and flip-flops. They also have to be in black. And most of the time, they do prefer just to go barefoot, especially if they're working outside or walking around the house. Then it's just easier for them to walk around in. So right over here, the parents' bed normally overlooks the barn, just in case a farm animal happens to get out in the middle of the night, or the barn does catch on fire. So if the barn does catch on fire and burn down, then that Amish family won't have to pay for any of it to rebuild it. Your church district will come together and they'll raise the money for you. They're very community-based, so they believe if somebody else pays it forward for you now, then you'll pay it forward in the future when somebody else is in need of that same help. Do you guys have any questions so far?
Oh my God, I'm so touched. This is pretty much all I can do. This is another room. I'm truly touched by their story. Like, how they were separated. This was pretty much a Pentecostal life back in Kerala. So I could relate to them a lot. I was really touched by their hats all the time on the head. We had to pray all the time. Amazing. Amazing, amazing. This is really nice. I'm so glad I came here. That's why I'm taking all video so I can show you all.
Is that what that's called?
Was Jay? All right.
Again, that goes with that graven imaging. They don't want something that could possibly represent themselves in any way. And they don't like to be prideful, so the dolls that they own don't have any faces on them. So the chest right here in the middle is called a hope chest. When a girl turns 16, she'll receive that chest from her parents. And then before she gets married, she'll fill it with anything that's sentimental to her that she wants to take to her new house with her husband. So the groom's family will normally buy the farm for the newlyweds, and then the bride's family will furnish the whole house with furniture for them. So right over there, along the back wall, just some more examples of the clothes that they would wear. The women normally don't wear like a winter jacket or a coat, so instead they'll wear a shawl, much like that blue one, or even a larger one like the one you guys saw down in the kitchen. So when you guys are ready, go ahead.
How you feeling? Like chicken?
Yes, interview.
No, here.
Kaylin has.
Oh, this is nice. Actually, in Kerala, so first time we are seeing a live chicken. This is beautiful. It's bringing a lot of memories back.
Here to do all the canning and the drawing of their fruits and their vegetables. They like it down here because it's a lot cooler, and then if they would use the stove up in the house and the house is really hot, they don't have that air conditioning to cool it down. So instead they'll come down here, they'll put all their fruits into a pot like this one that they're gonna make into a jam or a jelly, and then they'll heat it up. But once it's ready, they'll use this metal bar up here with the rope and pulley system to help them lift this pot up, because once this pot is full, it can be very heavy, it can be up to 80 pounds. So they'll just need that extra support to help them lift it up. So right over here, the old-fashioned butter churn. You have to turn this for about 45 minutes to get their own butter. Nowadays, the Amish will go to places like the local markets and the grocery stores, so they are able to get their own different types of groceries. So this one right here is the washing machine. It's run on a lawnmower motor down here to the right. All they would need to do is get some gas, put it in there, pull the plug to start it up. Their clothes would take about 45 minutes. Then once their clothes are ready, they put it through the wringer here on top to wring out all their water. So this one's a Maytag model, and Maytag still makes this type of model for people who don't have any electricity at all. So a lot of Amish families actually have this type of washing machine somewhere in their household. So back there in that closet is where they would store all their jams, their jellies, their pickled vegetables, and their canned meats. It's a lot cooler in there, so it's basically like another refrigerator, so preserve everything for longer. So most of the Amish do grow their own gardens. They'll grow their own fruits and vegetables. Then after they harvest them all, bring them down here to can and jar them all. Do you guys have any final questions?
I still remember I followed Amma for watching TV.
It's so blue. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Wow. Emily. ഇഷ്ടംപോലെ ബൂട്ട്സ് എല്ലാം ഉണ്ട് പശു
Joy, everything is under the cage. Come. Yeah.
I know that.
Look at this. ഇത് അമീഷിൻ്റെ അവരുടെ ടൂൾസ് ഒക്കെയാണ്. Tobacco cutters used to harvest tobacco in the fall of the year. Grain cleaner, tobacco baling box, wooden wagons for maple.
So remember the people over there on a horse drawn to a flip phone. And the yield. Okay, go. And later and കറണ്ട് ഉപയോഗിക്കാനുള്ള
പഴയ തരത്തിലുള്ള അടുപ്പുകളൊക്കെ typical wagon. They go to market and move. They don't use cars or anything. Blue sky, oh my god. Amish family. Schoolhouse. Oh, they have their own school here. This is an Amish classroom. Girls study till 8th grade. And after the 8th grade, I think the girls come and learn all the housework. Amazing.
Train youngsters to say that train youngsters to get ahead of life. Stress, tradition, stress, progress. Okay, first of all, they can sell of their Christian example, teachers on their ability and training.
Yeah, because that's how it should be. Have teachers who are generalists in subjects. Have teachers who are specialists.
Exactly. There should be correct knowledge,
Favor critical thinking.
but does it value cooperation and humility, value competition and pride and
That's not true. Wow, they are very.
Start with some history that'll kind of frame some stuff for you. So the Amish and the Mennonites, okay, two Christian religions in the old country, in old Europe in like the 1700s. They split and then they came to America. William Penn founded Pennsylvania. He sent for the Amish with the ship. A ship came, 300 Amish. They landed in Philly. They walked all the way here to Lancaster County. They've been here ever since. 41,000 Amish, the most in the country. They're in 28 states, but primarily in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana, and primarily here in Lancaster County. Excuse me. William Penn knew there was a lot of well water in the ground. He knew they were hardworking farmers. He saw the land, and so he wanted the Amish, but he also knew they were very persecuted. Both of those, Mennonites and Amish, were very persecuted for their belief in Jesus. So he sent for them. So look, right here on the right is an Amish house. Now we know, we don't think it's Amish because it's a farm, you know, because there are other farms that are English. This is Amish because we see the buggy, right? And we see the clothes hanging. They do wash their clothes in the house, but they do dry their clothes out with God and the sun and the wind. Every day is laundry day for the Amish. Every day except Sunday. You know, they average 8 to 9 children a family. So they do have a lot of laundry. And we'll go into more of that.
You don't have LG, Samsung dryers? Huh?
No Samsung dryers right now, but maybe one day. Also, you can take pictures, no video. They go to church every other week, and they go in their homes. They don't go to brick and mortar churches. So every day is laundry day except for Sunday, and Sunday is either church day or a family day. In fact, if they want to eat on Sunday, which they do, they will make it on Saturday. They will feed their animals and they will milk their cows on Sunday. That's it. Here's an Amish family garden. A lot of Amish have family gardens. It's not the garden for the barn and for the food for the farm. It's just for them. Remember, they've got so many children, and they really are, you know, you can't get fresher than that. It's fresh produce every day, every meal. Here's a graveyard right here. This is an old French graveyard. This helps to frame a little bit how the Amish think. No electricity on the left side,
But they have solar.
but solar power, right? So no electricity, but they do have power. So they power themselves with solar, air compression, and a lot of propane, gravity, simple machines, hard work. They have a lot of different power sources, you know, air compression, like I said, a lot of car batteries also. So on the left, the first building is a fabric store. So that is a store. You see the solar panels on the roof, you see the skylights. Every 3-4 months, the horse needs to be shoed, you know, get new shoes, and you know, take his vitamins and make sure that he's not going to go lame in his feet. You know, if our car goes down, everything stops, right? It's the same thing with the Amish. The horse and buggy is something they have chosen. The horse, these are a lot of retired race horses. They go about 5 to 8 miles an hour. And look at this. This is a mini horse on the right. So this is not a pony, but this is another special breed. Here it's brighter because there's a lot of limestone underneath, and this strip farming and this crop rotation has made the soil keep the minerals and the nutrients. Also, very little, and we'll talk about this later, but very little pesticides, very little spraying, a lot of organic farming. And of course, as they would be quick to acknowledge, the Amish, God's sunshine and rain in this area and weather in this area is absolutely a factor. So you're not seeing it now because it's not here now, but most of this would be corn. But 9 out of 10, 90% of the corn in Lancaster County, 90% is hard, inedible, bitter. It's gross. It's for the animals. They will grow the corn, fields of corn, and they will take the corn and the leaves and the stalks, and they'll cut everything up and they'll put it in these silos. All these big cylinders that you see on these farms are filled with food for the animals, because in the winter, please hear my bitterness now, it's freezing, okay? Remember, I grew up in warm weather. It's too cold to grow here in the winter. So they save it and they store it. And they store it in these silos. It's called silage. And you're seeing the different kinds of silos. Sausage. This tour would come to a quick stop, okay? Because we would be all having sausage, okay? On the left is a beautiful English house. You see the garage doors and you see the porch swings. I point this house out because I'd like to buy it.
Me too.
It is beautiful. It is very expensive here. $33,000 an acre. There are more, like in the country, I'm sure, more buyers than sellers right now. The Amish don't really sell to the English, not because it's a sin, but because there's so many Amish that they end up selling or giving or donating or gifting or helping or buying for their own kind. Their own kind sounds a little offensive, but they're they're family members. This guy's been up for 15 hours already, mowing his lawn. They're very hard workers, okay? They don't have credit cards. They only pay in cash, which is different than not having credit cards. You can get a better deal when you pay with cash. They don't have technology. They don't have cars. They're landowners. And guess what? They don't have barn, home, car, buggy, life, or medical insurance. They believe that having insurance is betting on disaster to happen. God gives, God takes, blessed be God. Do you understand if that barn over there on the right, that barn up there blew down? 3 days later, there'll be 600 Amish putting that barn up. If there's this big medical bill, it's $100,000. What are we going to do? Well, first of all, we pay cash, so let's get that down to about $18,500, where it should be. Okay, we're going to pay you in the lobby, doctor. You're going to love it. You don't have to do any paperwork. And then we'll all come together and help pay. They trust in God and family and community. Amish on the left, you see. Family garden, that woman's tilling something. You see the table with the box, put the money in. You see the feed thing going in the back. And I dare you to find a weed in an Amish garden. They've been up since 4. Here's some Amish children here. Hello. This house here on the left was English, and the Amish bought it. And they had 8 months to rip out the electricity. And the bishop would come and make sure they're living the Amish way. But look next door. DirecTV, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Tubi TV, Paramount Plus, right next door. But look, right here, Amish again. If you look to the right, look at that beautiful barn. See, they're not paying someone to do that. You understand? They're doing that with all their cousins and everyone. This guy's tilling. And he's got rubber tires on that machine, so he has Bishop with Social Security. They said, I'm sorry, did you say we're going to give our money to you, the government, early in life, and then you're going to give it back to us later in life to take care of our elderly? Yeah, we're not going to do that. We would take care of our family. They do not pay Social Security tax because of that. One for our schools and one for their schools. We're not sure why. They pay income tax. Look to the right. As I turn left, you will see a covered bridge. There's not many left. There was like 2,000, and now there's like 29 or something. Go up. They turn around. They have to like go into the street, up the bank. It's a whole production. This, the animals just go around. They keep going and going. Because we're talking about, a team of 4 to 6 mules or oxen. And I'm telling you the truth, I have seen 7 and 8-year-olds driving that train. That's probably no longer with us. But seriously, why would we call the Amish? Well, we call the Amish, you're learning now. Oh, did you get the lumber? Did you get the fabric? Anymore. They left the church, but they did it with dignity and respect. Remember how I said there was a way to do it. So, for them to decide to be Amish, they're going out from 16, they can get a car, they can get a phone, they can dress differently. They need to eat the meals with their family. They can't go out overnight anywhere. And they have to do all their chores. But this Rumspringa time, or this teenage time, this youth group time, is for them to find a spouse and to see if they want to be baptized Amish. So they go out, they discover the world, they come back and say, I want to be Amish. Or they go out, discover the world, and say, I want to be English. Either way is fine. Okay, the Amish, look at this view here to the right. Either way is fine. The only time there's a problem is the third option, where they come back, they're 19, they're 20, they're 22, and they want to be Amish, and they get baptized Amish. There's a big ceremony. It's awesome. But then, you know, a year later, 15 minutes later, 15 years later, they want to be English again. That's when they're excommunicated. That's when they're shunned. They can't eat with their family. They can't go to weddings. They can't go to funerals. They can't call the house. They basically have made the decision to be Amish after 17 or 18 years, been baptized, and then are no longer, don't want to live the Amish way anymore.
Going like further from where we started.
We are going through Munar. Going through Munar.
Palace, Burmese, Thai, sushi. We heard it's a very good food, so we're gonna try here. Things in the back. Drunken noodles. Looks like drunken.